ages of preschool to grade.
Students. All right, so let me share to you my PowerPoint. By the way, I would like to remind everyone that if you want a copy of my PowerPoint in handout format, just key in your request in the comments box below, and I'll be providing Michelle will be providing you my moderators will be providing you with the copy of the handouts. All right, so let's now proceed to my topic for this afternoon, and I'll try to be as clear and as brief as I can be. All right, so our title of learning session for this afternoon is all about practical ways to promote and enhance learning at home. It may seem not practical for a lot of teachers, but it is practical in the sense that this is the most simple way we can come up with in providing our students with the necessary learning materials. Given the limited access, their limited access to certain technology that we may think may help them boost their experience in the learning process. But remember, when we come up with plans, right now, we come up with plans, and when we integrate other technologies to our learning plans, it is very important for us to consider, are these technologies actually present in the homes of our students? Now, if the answer is yes, then we can basically push through and continue our planning, integrating explicitly these technologies. But then again, there's a possibility that a few population of our students may have limited access to these technologies that we're thinking of in their homes. And if we just plan out our learning plans that explicitly integrate digital technologies, web-based technologies, and not consider this few people who may not have access to these technologies, then we have not started yet, but we have already started and making sure that our students some of our students will fail in the process. if we come up with a design that would consider first those students have limited access to these technologies, and then and then as we move along, we progress to a more integrated, highly digital technology, web-based technology integrated instruction for our students, then the better. And that's what we're going to talk today. That's why my subtitle for my topic this afternoon is From Limited to Prolific Technology Use at Home. So I would suggest that when we plan out the curriculum, let us not start with a boom. Let us start with a simple, the most simple way of delivering learning via distance education through modular instruction. All right. And then later on, we think of how we can improve it via integration, replacement of some of those parts in the module with appropriate technologies, be it digital or web-based or even print. All right. So these are my questions for this afternoon, but we will begin with an introduction where I will provide certain myths about learning and distance learning education so that in the process we are able to find the answers why these statements are myths about learning and distance education. And this is my way of integrating a new way of how will I present my topics, my webinar topics this August. So I will always have introduction. If you observe during July, I was, my presentations were a little bit simple, but as I move along, I have now a more complex uh, presentation. And then by September, I will add on, probably I will give an online quiz, but tune in as I improve my way of delivering my goods to you guys out there. All right. So during discussion, we will answer the following questions. What is distance learning? All right. What technology should be made available to our learners to maximize their learning at home? How does one select appropriate technologies for planning distance learning? All right. And then we will have mini workshop. The mini workshop would be, of course, prepared by yours truly. And then all you have to do there is just look at it, how I did it. And then hopefully and eventually you will be able to get some of those ideas how I did the workshop and be able to help you translate those ideas into your own way of planning your lesson plans and your modules. Then I will now be ready to entertain questions and clarifications. Now, if you have along the way, you have questions and clarifications you would like to ask me, do not hesitate to write your comments and clarifications in the comments box below. All right. And then I'll have my conclusions and implications. Let's begin. So let us now identify and bust myths about distance education and learning in general. Let us begin with myth number one. Rereading and highlighting information while reading or studying. This has been our practice. A lot of us teachers, when we were young and we were students, and then now that we are teachers, we somehow encourage our students to do the same thing, rereading and highlighting information while reading or studying. Research shows that the rereading and the highlighting information while studying or while reading a selection or a part of a book or a unit or part of a module actually is a barrier, a stumbling block for learners in understanding and getting the information from what he or she is reading or studying. So the most important thing to do first to teach our students is to finish reading it, and then after reading it, they can now look for the information that is very important. So what's important is to finish reading it, read the whole part first, and then if you want to read from the very beginning, go back and then stop. Do not stop at every point. Do highlighting. It actually highlighting information is actually a barrier. You do that after you have read everything, because that's when you get to realize which of those information that you just gone through are most important and those that are not least important. What happens is that while you're reading and highlighting, you keep on highlighting technical words and vocabulary that you think you have misunderstanding on, or you think is important in the unit, but actually then after reading it, oh, those are not really important information. So The problem is you already highlighted them. All right. Next, students must learn using their different learning styles. That is a myth. All right. I explained my previous trainings and my webinars before that it's partly true that as teachers we consider the individual learning styles of our students. But remember, the ultimate goal for our students is that for them to be able to adjust to different learning situations and just to various social contexts. Therefore, they must not stay in their own learning styles. If we keep on providing highly the answer to this myth, go back to my webinar on research shows that done by Cambridge University in their Center of Measurement and Evaluation Center of Assessment and Evaluation came up that there are more there's a high percentage of students who get higher scores who actually relied on their second answer and not just on their first answer. Okay. Next, intelligence is fixed at birth. No, intelligence is improving. That's why the formula for checking the IQ, for getting the IQ is mental age over chronological age. Our intelligence improves as we go about and as we get older. And well, basically the speed and the bulk of our intelligence would depend on the kind of exposure we are, the kind of exposure that we have been faced with, have been introduced to, either by our teachers or by the environment itself or by our society. Number 7, praising intelligence will motivate students is wrong. It is wrong to say, ang tali-talino mo talaga, ang tali-talino. Do not do that because students, research shows that, Cambridge also, same research from Cambridge, shows that students have been praised a lot about focusing on their intelligence, where became more non-risk takers. But what is more important is not to praise their intelligence, but to praise how good they did something, all right? The work. So focus more on the quality of the work, but not the quality of the intelligence, okay? Next would be number 8. We only use 10% of our brain. That's wrong. We have a capacity. Our brain is so powerful, and we can keep on using that continuously, help ourselves be exposed to a lot of literacy activities and a lot of mind-boggling activities at home. Then we go beyond 10% of the use of our brain. Next, the learning pyramid helps individuals learn more effectively. There was a myth about, let's say, 10% of what you hear, 15% of what you see. Remember those percentage, the pyramid percentage for us. 100% of what you talk and do are 100% stored in your long-term memory. That is not really that's true. There's no such thing as the percentage of the senses. Go back again to my talk about developing enhancement memory skills. It's not on the percentage, but it's on the relevance and the focus and attention that we provide to certain information that we're supposed to learn from. All right. And then finally, there are shortcuts to better learn. There are no shortcuts to better learn. There's no easy way. Everything would always start with being difficult because it's always the first time. There's no such thing as the first time and it was easy. In fact, first times will always be difficult, especially in the learning process, because it's our first time to do something. But as we continuously use it and continuously use that skill or that type of technique, and it becomes easy because it becomes part of our habit. There you go. So these myths will be answered all throughout our discussion today. And now let's begin with by answering the first question. What is distance learning? All right. So distance learning is easy to answer. It is one aspect of distance education. All right. It is one aspect of distance education. All right. So So our process here is that the teacher and the student have a physical interaction. All right. But because of, say, our situation right now, because of pandemic, the physical interaction, the face-to-face interaction is no longer acceptable. That's what we call as no face teacher-student interaction. That's called as distance education. This is just concretizing the definition of distance education, meaning that the physical presence of both the teacher and the learner is not present at the same time and at the same location. It is separated by distance, all right, separated by distance. So to make clear of that, these are the characteristics of distance education. The S went down, all right? It has to be carried out by institution. It is still a formal, these courses, these materials that are provided for our students for distance learning are designed by teachers doing distance teaching, all right? And that being said, it is carried out by institution, a school that follows certain standards. It cannot be whatever the students want to learn, or it cannot be what teachers would like to teach the students. They need to follow the standards and the curriculum. All right. Next, it is accessible and convenient. It becomes, when we think about distance education, it is because we would like to limit certain situations that would bring about stress among our students. An example would be time traveling from their homes to school, the traffic, waking up in the morning, and so on. This time wasted of all of these things to be able to attend to learning is minimized. Therefore, it becomes convenient. And then the materials are delivered to the houses or either by a courier or by the teacher delivering the modules directly to the homes, or via a web-based way of delivering the material. Therefore, it's still accessible. But remember, when we think of accessibility of these materials, it should be on the perspective of the students, not on the perspective of the teachers. Okay? What happened in the Philippines is that we have forced, okay? What happened to most families in the Philippines is that we have forced the families to provide for their children digital technology like laptops, tablets, internet connection, all right, internet connection, which was not actually part of their daily or monthly budget, but now it has bloated into something that they have not expected to be, because we have forced them to be in that situation. Our distance education should not do that. It should not make our parents and students inconvenient. Okay? Anyway, let's proceed. Later on, we're going to discuss that. Next would be connects individuals through interactive communication. So that could be via the phone, it could be via the internet, it could be via the material itself. Okay? And the next, or the printed module. The next, we have establishes a learning group. Now, one of the challenges of distance education is how to maintain the collaborative effort of our students, because we cannot minimize or diminish the power of learning through sharing of ideas among students. It is very important that we still continue on despite the physical interaction being absent. We still come up with certain programs where our students will have still an opportunity to talk to someone else or other people aside from themselves, to be able to clarify ideas and therefore be able to help themselves understand concepts, because it is better that they talk about it and share ideas with others than themselves, because if it's not shared to others on their own, they think that they understood the material correctly. So just to summarize, our answer for the first question is what distance education is, or distance learning is. Distance education also is called distance learning, e-learning, and online learning. It is a form of education in which the main elements include physical separation from teachers and students during instruction, and the use of various technologies to facilitate student-teacher and student-student communication. Remember, when we say technologies, we're not only talking about digital technologies. Digital technology is only one group of technologies that are available for us. Print technology is one of those group of technologies that we have, like pictures, the printed modules, the activity sheets. So think about technology in its general sense, not digital technology or web-based technologies. All right. So let's proceed to the second question number 2. What are the different learning delivery modes in distance education? All right. So distance education should be seen in two perspectives: distance teaching and distance learning. All right. So mostly what teachers what most teachers, educators, school heads, parents are only thinking about in distance education is the distance learning in itself. Distance learning is just a product of what the teachers did during the planning stage in their distance teaching, in creating a distance teaching experience for them. So let's say the teacher is at home or at school planning the material. So the teacher is the one designing the learning tool. And I would say that will be the module. The modules would always be the core of distance education. Without the module, it is difficult for teachers to choose what technologies would best be appropriate or would be appropriate to best deliver the effective and quality type of learning for our students who are at home. Okay? So, sorry to shift to Filipino, dapat, pag sinabihan natin ng teacher ng plano ng distance education, para ka pa rin nagpaplano ng kung ano ang ginawa mo dati sa nung face-to-face. Pero dahil nga walang face-to-face, later on titignan mo, ay wala na akong face-to-face. So ito dito, dapat activity sheet to, itong part ng aking lesson. O itong part ng aking na-evaluation ko, ay activity sheet ulit. Uy, yung instruction ko, wala ako, hindi ako makakapag-explain. Dapat may video ako dito. So kung i-record ko sarili ko, I could probably look for lectures that have already been uploaded on YouTube. O copyright na naman natin yun. So safe pa rin si teacher ang kagawa nun. Well, the point is, the decision for augmenting, the decision of improving the way the module will be delivered should be based on the module exists to begin with. All right? So dapat nagawa mo ng module, tapos yung module bago siya na-improve into technology-based or digital technology-based or web-based or audio-based delivery modes, dapat tapos po muna module, i-connect muna. And then, because the basis of selecting the technology is based on whether those technologies are available in the homes of our students. Say that our teachers collectively and collaboratively finished the module for, say, mathematics for grade 4, quarter 1. Tapos na dapat. Nagawa na po yun. Alright? They are now going to brainstorm as to what sport to deliver the module can be integrated in the plan, okay, in the instructional plan in order to enhance the learning experience of our students. Enhance po ha. Yung facilitate kasi, yung module na mismo talaga. Okay? Do not think of other technologies if you do not have the module to begin with. All right. It could be also audio files or other web-based materials, but nonetheless still to support the module. Okay? Kaya nga po, ang nasa utak ko po ng matagal talaga, bakit baka ang mga teachers gagawa ng bagong learning materials na meron naman silang ginawa na last school year or the previous school years. What they're supposed to be doing during the summer or during the pandemic or June and July was to put them together in one plan and think which of those parts of the lessons that they delivered last year, which is grade 12 based, can be delivered using, online technologies or web-based technologies or digital technologies. Now, the question is, are these technologies appropriate to enhance the learning of our students? If not, because they're not available there, it becomes an inconvenience for our students, then probably we stick with converting our modules into self-paced, individualized learning modules. Yun na. So, madali na lang sana. Hindi nangyari po sa atin ngayon sa Pilipinas is that we started from making the instructional plans to begin with. And then once the instructional plans have been done, it's when we think of, not to mention, may bago ang stand, yan bagong stand, may bagong sets of standards na labas. Hindi talagang bago halos lahat. Although nangahoy tayo, but it took us nagsayang tayo ng oras doon. The point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the distance education would rely, the core of it would be the module. Okay? And do not think when I say module, it is printed. No, ang module ay yung ginawa ng teacher, pwedeng sinulat niya kung wala siyang laptop, pero sinulat niya. Delivering it via print technology is our old what we call as delivery modes. So the module should exist either in soft copy or hard copy. Kung sa libro po yan, sa mga textbooks sa publications, ang tawag po natin doon ay teacher's guide. Kung sa atin po mga teachers naman yan po, yung module na yan, tawag po natin ay lesson plans. Or ngayon, ang tawag ninyo ay mga exemplars. Okay po. Now, two perspective po ito. Siguro ang nangyari po sa distance education in the Philippines is we thought we just thought of one perspective, just the distance learning. Hindi natin tiningnan ang distance teaching. Ano ang gagawin muna ng mga teacher? Anong pagpapagod ang gagawin ng mga teacher? Are they equipped? Do they have the facilities already and the equipment? If yes, then proceed. Usap tayo niyan. Ano ang magandang delivery modes for distance education? Okay. Nakaklaro po natin. Again, all of these are ideas of I'm basing all my comments on the principles of distance education. We should not look at distance education only on the perspective of the teacher, the perspective of distance learning. Tatlo ya po yan ha. The perspective of the technologies and the module, tatlo po yan. The teacher, the material, and the learners. Tatlo po yan. Nasaan po tayo? Anong kinonsidera po natin? Hindi natin consider ang sitwasyon ng mga teacher. Hindi natin consider ang availability ng mga materials sa mga teacher at saka sa mga estudyante. Hindi natin consider ang cost. Kasi mas maraming gastos na to. Bakit po? They are now separated. Unlike if it's in school, the school provides for everything. But because in distance education, all of these three perspectives must be taken care of. Hopefully not by individual teachers, because if it's being taken care of by individual teachers, my gosh, that's too much. All right, so I'm looking at the module. Now, so distance education can be delivered in, of course, two major ways. Asynchronous, where each learner is receiving the material of the learning, interacting with the course content in his or her own schedule. May sariling schedule ang bata. So hindi yung binigyan ng schedule ng school. So siya ang mag-decide anong oras siya sa mga subjects na yun. Basta sinabi sa kanya na these are the modules that you're supposed to finish in 1 week. So ang bata ang mag-decide kung kailan niya babasahin ang bawat module o paano niya atataduhin in 1 week ang pagtapos ng module na yon. Alright? Like what we do with ALS. Di ba? Yung ALS, pag binigay natin ng module, may orientation muna tayo kung paano paggamit nun, kailan magkikita-kita ulit, kailan sila magsasubmit. Alright, hindi natin sinasabi basta araw-araw schedule. No, ang mga bata on their own are independently creating their own schedule to be able to finish the module and finish the module on or before the agreed schedule of submitting certain requirements or taking a test and so on and so forth. All right? So meron na po nga tayo niyan yung ALS. Sana ginamit natin ang modules ng ALS. Ano doon? As springboard for the creation of our module delivery for the pandemic. Mas okay na sana yun, existing na siya. Anyway, another one is what we call asynchronous. Ibig sabihin po niyan that the learners are receiving at the same time, okay, the learning the material at the same time, fixed ang schedule, like what we do at school. A school where students have a certain schedule that they follow, all of them are should to be there inside the classroom is called synchronous. And I think this is what we have thought of. Okay, itong nasa isip natin ngayon na ang klase ng delivery ng ating distance education ay synchronous lang. Wala nang iba. Asynchronous, hindi gagamitin ang asynchronous. Synchronous lang, ibig sabihin lahat sabay-sabay. I beg to disagree. So may I suggest this? The principles of distance education shows us, okay, and research shows that we can design distance education in 3 ways. And this is my suggestion, all right? And this is my suggestion to you. The teacher and the school should decide what distance education design is appropriate for their students. Bakit po? Ang school at ang mga teacher ang nakakilala ng mga sitwasyon ng kanilang mga estudyante. Sila lang po. Okay? Outside that, they only know, I'm sorry for the I, the division office, the district office, the regional office, they only have a general idea of school's situation or situation of the learning situation inside the school. Pero kung pagkilala sa kapasidad ng mga bata sa pagkatuto, ang nakakalam po talaga are basically the teachers and the school. Therefore, when we create distance education design, it should consider the knowledge, this knowledge of teachers and the school about the learners. So here's what I suggest. Distance education can be delivered asynchronous to students who are highly independent, who has good study habits, highly literate, and with high academic performance. So, pwede na kasi yun na, itong 5 estudyante na identify po, sir, kayang-kaya po nila na sila na po, so pwede po sila mag-asynchronous. So, hindi na kailangan, basta alam nila, parang AL style po na dapat within the week, they are really able to take a test, they need to present, and so on and so forth. So, hindi ko sila kailangan tutukan. So, si teacher, kung sabihin natin na she has, say, in a private school, 25 students, she has 25 students, and she was able to identify 5 independent learners with good study habits, with good academic standing. So, bawas na sa kanyang pag-monitor sa learning ng bata, sa teaching and learning process, the distance education and learning sa actual week. So, yung 20 na lang natitira sa kanya. Now, from the 20, pwedeng gawin niya ngayon ay pwede bang synchronous naman yung ibang natitira sa tingnan natin. For synchronous po, for independent learners who have good academic performance, literate but lacking in good study habits, ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng mag-decide ang sarili ang bata kung kailan niya, kung paano siya mag-aaral. Kasi mahina nga ang kanyang study. Matalino nga siya, pero mababa ang kanyang study habits. So what we're going to do is we're going to give these students fixed schedule. Alright? Fixed schedule. But, ano naman yung mga estudyante na talagang struggling learners? Hindi kaya lang ng synchronous yan. Dapat may mga additional activities for independence. So dapat synchronous at saka asynchronous. Combination of both. So sana ganito po ang ginawa natin na pag-decide. Now, we cannot decide for all schools because the situation of one school is totally different from other schools. The situation of the public school is different from the situation of the private schools, even amongst private schools and within the private school, iba-iba ang sitwasyon ng bawat grade level, ng bawat section. Okay? But the point is, no matter how the teacher decides how a module should be delivered, the module exists. Kasi nga pwede niyang module, asynchronous ang i-deliver sa bata, i-print niya, ang bata ang magde-decide. Activities are printed. Sa synchronous naman po, dapat para sa schedule, so may printed, merong online. Pag naman natin sa synchronous naman, para struggling learners naman, ay meron siyang sariling schedule for remediation, independent remediation, kasi iba-iba ang mga problema, meron po siya mga printed materials, and then meron siyang online. Mas maraming support ngayon sa mga struggling learners. What happened in the distance education for us in the Philippines is that we only have one type of design for all types of students with the condition and with the presumption that these students have the same conditions, mental, emotional, and socioeconomic status. I beg to disagree. I hope you know where I'm coming from. Not angry. It's just that it's overwhelming. I'm overwhelmed. If I'm overwhelmed and my status and my career status is just I'm a consultant, ano pa kaya ang experience ng isang teacher? So let's now answer, this should be the third question. The third question would be, what technology should be made available to learners and maximize their learning at home? So actually, this question is so funny because it should not be made available. It should start with what's available. All right? So sinabi natin limited, ano lang available talaga? Kung hindi available talaga sa mga bahay ng mga bata, ang mga digital technologies, web-based technologies, then there is no other way but to print all the modules. All right? So mamaya discuss po natin kung ano yung, how do we ensure that printed modules are right. So these are some technologies that can be delivered using that considers all the standards and the learning competencies in the MELC. So just go through it, okay? Ito lang po siya. I prepared technology advantages and disadvantages. I don't want to discuss this because I don't want to make this topic as highly ICT based. So we'll just let you go through it. That these are some of the common technologies that are present out there that may be present at home or may not be present at home, may be present at school or the homes of the teachers, but not all present at home. Let's have print. Available ba ang print sa mga bahay ng, well, that can be made available? It does not require any other integration of technologies or digital technologies. Print, pag pinadala sa mga bata, yun lang. Kailangan dapat maayos ang module, printed module. Next, voicemail. Meron ba sa mga bahay? Limited din. Alright, not all. Kahit sabihin po natin na we are now the technology age, not all communities in the Philippines, not just communities nga within the community lang nga within the community, may mga bahay pa na hindi talaga well off, na hindi rin talaga may technology. So kung i-consider lang natin na basta, kasi sila, lahat ng mga bata ngayon ay dapat nasa technology, dapat nga. Pero ang problema nga naman, lahat ba sila sa bahay ay meron nun? Eh kung wala naman, edi we have forced the families to change their ways, to change their lifestyle to suit what we want them to be. All right? And the problem is with the pandemic is that economically speaking, they're also struggling. Dinagdagan mo na nga, o di na nga sila makapag-aral sa school, nag-struggle na nga sila, tapos dinagdagan pa natin sila na dapat nilang bilhin. Oh my gosh. Dapat nakapokus sa learning. Ang problema ng mga bata ngayon, sana ako mag-computer, sana ako mag-internet. Maswerte ang mga schools na mga bata, yung estudyante niya, may access. Pero that's looking at the perspective that on 1 week, we're talking about how many months kakayanin kaya nila yan. Kahit sila mag-rent, sabihin natin 5 piso kada oras. Ilang oras yan sa isang araw kunwari? Sir, once a week lang po sila. O let's say have 8 subjects. 8 times 5, ilan yon? How many weeks in a quarter? How many quarters in a school year? 4. Compute the cost. Hindi lang yung cost po ng mga bata at ng pamilya. May cost din yan si teacher. Alright? So these are the technologies. Again, I already prepared a handout format of this. Those who would like to look at it so that you can consider these technologies and its advantages and disadvantages when you plan out your lessons or modify your lessons later on. It will be made available to you after my session, okay? Or I think my moderator will explain it to you later on. Just go through with it. So ito po siya mga technologies, videos, internet video conferencing, and so on. Finally, we have the cable broadcast television still be ongoing. The government is trying to enlist the help of the local televisions and radio stations and national-based coverage broadcasting stations and televisions, but it will take some time. By the time that they have already done, that they are now ready to support the distance education of the Philippines, I think we're halfway through the school year, if not almost at the end. All right, so let's proceed to the last question. How does one select appropriate technologies for planning distance learning? Okay, here we go. First, we need to consider these factors: delivery and access. How do we deliver and make this learning materials accessible to our students? Now, again, the delivery and accessibility of these materials is not collectively the same. In one section that the teacher handles, hindi lahat ng estudyante posibleng maka-access noon. Kung online na ginamit natin, sino ang pwedeng mag-online? Kapag may choice ang bata, sino ang pwedeng mag-online, mag-module. Ano ang available sa bahay? Nakuha po natin, ano ang kaya ng pamilya? Now, the point here is that, kung ano, sabi nyo, sir, ang hirap naman yun, that's part of planning. We consider the situation of our learners.
If we only, if we don't consider that, na bahala sila mag-adjust. Harap na nga ako ng teacher ginawa ko ng ganito. Yes, I know that's how it is. Kasi sino ba nagsabi na individual planning? It should be collectively done. Basahin niyo po ulit yung order ng ating secretary. Okay? Division-wide nga, di ba? Next would be control. How will the control be done by the teachers and the students? Not just to mention on the development of the materials, let it be the module printed or not. The question is, how will the students have control over the materials? Is it naka-chunk na ba talaga siya, nakalagay doon for 5 minutes? Pag dinevelop daw natin ang materials kasi, dapat klaro ilang minuto ang mga activities na yon para alam ng bata, or this module is good for how many minutes. Para klaro ng bata, kung ako ay independent learner, I know how to create my own schedule. Kung asynchronous naman yan, wala nang problema kasi sabay-sabay naman, asynchronous, sabay-sabay ang mga bata. Alright? Next would be how the interaction will be done. Is it interaction with oneself, interaction with the teacher online, teacher via the printed module, or interaction of the student with someone at home? Dapat tingnan natin din yun. Next, symbolic, the audiovisual characters of the medium. Ano daw ang porsyento ng mga pictures at other supports to help the learning process? Sabi nga nila, ang bata na mababa ang pag binigyan mo ng printed materials, kahit pa yan maganda ang layout, maganda ang materials, hirap nga, struggling reader nga kahit gaano kaganda pa yan, ang tingin lang niya ay mga lang yan, pictures lang yan. So how do we, ang sabi ko nga, kung mga struggling readers, combination of both. Dapat meron silang audio materials, maririnig nila. It's like listening to the teacher is there. The problem is, again, is it available sa bahay nila? Research shows in the Philippines that students who have in the socioeconomic, yung mga estudyante na medyo may hina, majority of the population of students who are struggling or are struggling learners in school have low socioeconomic status in their families. So ibig sabihin, kung dadagdag pa natin ng technology, struggling na nga sila, struggling pa ang socioeconomic sa bahay, dadagdagan pa ng marami, struggle much. Okay, so what do we do? That's when we enlist, via the help of the school heads and the division office, enlist the help of the local government to provide this identified students, identified lang, hindi lang ng estudyante, identified struggling students provided with this type of technologies. Kaya lang problema ulit, dahil pag binigyan mo ng technology, dahil nga mga bata na struggling, mababa ang disiplina at mababa ang mga pagrespeto sa ibang tao, sa sarili. So there's a possibility na pag binigay mong technology within the week, sira na lahat. So importante na may orientation sa kanila and behavior modification. Kasi nga, struggling readers also have different behaviors and different perspectives of how to treat other people and other things. So hindi lang materials ang titingnan natin. It's also the orientation students. All right. Next will be social presence created by the medium. Kind of the same with my explanation. Human-machine interface, technology availability. So let's have an example. So how we do it. So we need to follow the following general. There are more specific phases on this. Pero ayoko naman kayong pahirapan dyan. Pero generally, these are the common phases and stages in developing a module. Module po ha, hindi natin sinasabi na, sir, printed po ba yung oral? Module, ibig sabihin, later mo na i-decide whether it will be delivered via video and so on. So the module is the material. It's the learning material, all right? In short, it is from the lesson plan created into like the teacher, the one talking. It was that the phases are, we have the planning phase, all right? In the planning phase, we need to understand that, okay, we need to train the developers. So sa planning phase, how do we chunk the learning competencies in the MECs into how many weeks? 7 weeks or 7 to 8 weeks. Okay? Again, hindi lahat ng teachers po ay na-train na module developers. Therefore, if they are listed, they are required to make modules sana binigyan po natin sila ng training how to make modules. Iba kasi ang lesson planning sa module writing or module development. Mas detalyado ang paggawa ng module kaysa sa lesson plan. Lesson is like an outline of a blueprint. And then from that blueprint, gagawa ka na ng mock. Kung sa atin ba, kung sa bahay yan, ang blueprint po ay ang lesson plan mo. Ang paggawa ng mock building out of the blueprint, sample po, is what you call as a module. Right? Next, the development phase, yun na. Siyempre, nagsusulat na po. Pero kailangan pong testing the design and scope and sequence. Dapat titingnan po ang didevelop ng mga teachers kung nasunod po ang ginawang scope and sequence. Later on, I will show you a sample of a scope sequence for a distance education plan. Right? Then tryout and evaluation phase. What will happen po for the first quarter of this school year will be tryout and evaluation phase. Which part of the module works and doesn't work? Okay, what do we do? The delivery is not effective. What do we do? So it becomes tryout. So dapat meron po tayong open line to listen to the comments of the receivers of the material. That will be our students, our parents, which of those are effective and which of those are not. So that by second quarter, we're able to modify and incorporate those changes based on the comments and the struggles that the end users have experienced firsthand. Now, from the tryout, of course, we will now have sets of people who will be doing the editing and revision, but that will be for the next school year. That is if we still have the same situation for the next school year. But this school year, we can use this data to edit and revise our modules for the second quarter, all right? And then try out, then deliver it in the second quarter and try out, and let's find out, did it work? If it worked, let's continue on with the same design for the third quarter. If it didn't work, there's still, loopholes, then let's improve it and then go back to then deliver it again at the third quarter. Then listen to the students and parents' comments about it and then improve for the fourth quarter. I presume by the middle of our school year, our teachers will now have a way of knowing which of those parts of their module needs to be modified and which those parts of their module are actually effective and the type of delivery that, most effective for the learning of our students. And finally, we have publication and dissemination, meaning it can be used now for the whole school year, which of course we need to take care of ensuring copyrights. Yung mga YouTube kasi na yan, meron pong copyright. So dapat tinuruan ng ating mga teachers na they're not supposed to embed in their PowerPoint or their interactive videos the downloaded YouTube. They just have to put a link. Kung sa module po to, sa printed module po yan, dapat tinuruan sa teachers na these are the things that they have to do to ensure that there is no copyright infringement. Okay? Hindi pwedeng sinasabi. Well, I don't want to discuss that, but these are the things that we need to do. Next, of course, we have providing orientation training to stakeholders and concerned, training to stakeholders concerned. Since only few teachers are chosen to write modules, all the rest of the teachers need to be oriented on how the materials will be delivered. Okay? So it becomes a mass training now. Paano magsalita? Kagaya ng, kung ikaw teacher, this part of the module will be live online lecture, live online interaction with the students. What are the things that you need to consider? You need a microphone, you need so on and so forth, the lighting, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that we need to orient our our teachers, and one way or the other, we need to train them too. Now, let's proceed to the basic parts of the components of a learning module, all right? So we have introduction. In the introduction of the module, there should be a short description of the module with explicit mention of target standards, LCs and LOs. LCs, learning competencies and learning outcomes. What students are able to accomplish, do, perform, create at the end of the module. All right, so klaro po yan, simula pa lang sa introduction. Next, you have preliminary activities. Like in the lesson plan, there are some activities that prepare students mentally, emotionally to focus on learning the module. Dapat mayroong preliminary activities to somehow give the students the whole idea of what they're supposed to be learning in the discussion part or body part. Next, we have the input. The input is structured. In a module, structured po talaga siya. In the Sisters of Mary, ang ginamit po namin structure ay simple lang po. Question, answer. And the question is based on, of course, on answering the learning, the information required of realizing the learning competencies, and they're organized from literal questions to interpretive questions to applied questions in that order, from easy to difficult. Just to say it simply. All right. So question and answer. Next, we have formative activities. Okay, the formative activities are several sets of activities ranging from independent to collaborative exercises that allows learners to practice the LCs and LOs. Okay, I know that you are familiar with formative assessment, but again, since formative activities are also formative assessment, you are able to gauge whether they're able to do that. Now, it can be delivered via an online platform, or it can be again printed module. My point is, do not think of the delivery yet. Isulat nyo muna yan. Kasi madali na mag-decide paano yan i-deliver kung tapos na lahat. Okay? Next, you have assessment and evaluation. An ultimate activity could be a test. It could be something that they're able to do using performance rubrics or product-based rubrics that gauges the learner's learning acquisition and application of the target LCs and LOs. Okay? Summary and reflection, of course, since they're at home, they need to be helped and guided as to how well they acquired and how well they were able to process the information in the module. The reflection part may be a journal reflection with guide questions for students to answer at every end of the module, which can be submitted to the teachers so that the teachers will use this reflection as feedback how they can modify and improve their module writing by the next time they create another module. Importante pa may reflection po yan sa ating mga modules. All right? Sige po. Now, how do we select technology? Now that we have the module, say nasulat na po natin yung module, how do we select the module, the technology that would replace certain traditional delivery that I have indicated in my module? Okay. So we'll be using the SAMR model by Dr. Rubin Pentedura, published in 2015. All right. There are four stages of SAMR. So I would like you to treat this model as gradation of the level of integration. It is not saying that one builds on another, although it may build one on the other, but one can exist without the others. So pwedeng gawin mo lang substitution, the rest okay lang. So ibig sabihin, they can stand on its own, pwede naman building on top of the other, pwede na pong gradation in terms of making decisions. So to me, SAMR is a gradation of the level of how we decide on what technology is most appropriate to enhance. Okay, remember that when you think of a technology, we're talking about, would it support the learning of our students, or would it disrupt the learning of our students? Would it enhance? Would it stop and be an inconvenience for our learners? So substitution, okay, is basically technology directly. Substitution is a process of technology directly substituting more traditional learning tools but makes no alteration in the learning experience. Ibig sabihin, pinalitan mo lang ang traditional delivery pero parehas lang po ang learning experience. So ang tawag lang po dun ay substitution. Example would be printed material. May mga bata na mayroong mga tablets, bigyan mo sila ng PDF copy or ebook. Okay? So, hindi ba, the learning experience, they still have to read and understand. So if they really understand, babalik po tayo, gamitin nyo po ang mga strategies po ng teaching comprehension of narratives and informational text and across subject areas. Yan po. So, press lang po sila, mag-iba lang po ang delivery mode. The other one is printed, the other one is e-copy. Same ang experience. The same learning experience and the same skills will be utilized. Now, another one is another way of deciding what technology and how technology can help us in the delivery of our modules is the augmentation. Okay, augmentation is when technology directly substitutes a more traditional learning tool but makes an alteration in the learning experience Kung sa substitution hindi nabago ang learning experience, pagdating sa augmentation, nababago, nagkakaroon ng alteration of the learning experience. Okay? Example po, si teacher nagle-lecture lang. Okay? Pwede si teacher nagle-lecture lang, sa tradition nagle-lecture sa harapan ng mga bata. Okay? Ngayon, pwede si teacher mag-record ng video, pre-recorded lecture, tapos ipapadala niya sa mga bata on a schedule, on a synchronous schedule, okay, to the students. Or pwede pong gawin niyang live online lecture. So the technology there would be the web-based, the laptops, the digital technologies, and so on and so forth. Anong nabago po? It will require students to have other technologies for them to be able to access that. So nabago na ang learning experience. Hindi lang gagamitan ng utak. Okay? Unlike substitution, ang bata, skills lang, mental capacities and comprehension skills lang gagamitin. Pagdating sa augmentation, ang kanyang mental capacity, ang kanyang mental processing skills, not enough. Kailangan niya ng presence of technologies, other technologies aside from printed materials. That's augmentation. Ang tawag po natin sa two stages or parts ng SAMR model is enhancement. It enhances the learning experience. Okay? Kung titignan mo naman, so ang bata manonood, kasi ang kagandahan po ng pre-recorded lecture of the teacher is that there's a high chance that students did not get the information the first time the teacher lectured, which is, most of the time. A lot of students do not get the information. Kagaya po nito, kaya magandang webinar na to dahil mare-record nyo siya, tapos later on, pwede mo siyang ulit-ulitin para makita, may itong part na hindi ko siya masyado maintindihan, kaya lang hindi ko na masabi si Sir Aguirre or Brother Aguirre na, Sir, could you please explain this? So hindi na kailangan, it becomes a recursive activity for the students if it's pre-recorded video lecture of teachers. Kung live online, pwede pa rin i-record. So pwede balik-balikan ng bata ang experience. So one way or the other, it heightens and enhances the learning experience. But the next two preceding stages, hindi nag-enhance lang. All right? Modification is called technology modifies tasks and learning outcomes. Binabago na niya ang mga gagawin. Okay, hindi lang mental skills, hindi lang mental skills, but also the physical skills and the interaction, nababago na siya. All right? So, if our students are doing collaborative, discussions, science investigatory project at school na nagkita-kita sila, hindi na ganon. May iba na ang kanilang, they're still going to do the collaborative activity, pero ang mangyayari po, hindi na sila face-to-face. So nabago na ang learning outcome. So instead of having a concrete product, ang gagawin nila ngayon ay a mock product using digitized products. Siguro, ginamitan nila ng Photoshop, Adobe, and so on and so forth. So, hindi na siya tangible, may intangible na mga products. So, one or the other, nababago yung mga tasks. At, which I think right now, yun po dapat ang iniisip ng mga teachers when thinking of what technology is best for our students, is to help modify the tasks kasi nga sa bahay nila gagawin. Alright? And then, they do not have support from their group mates. So, wag na kayo muna mag-isip na mga tangible tasks, tangible learning outcomes based like projects, products creation na tangible. So, lahat muna ngayon tayo intangible. Kagaya ng pag-essay, intangible. Wag muna yung papel na naka-essay sila. Pwede pong nakasulat muna, naka-encode. Pero kung itong mga bata, wala pa silang pag-i-encodean po kasi nasa bahay, wala silang computer and so on and so forth, tangible po. Yung sinasabi ko po, depende sa availability ng bata sa bahay. Okay? Next, you have redefinition. Redefinition is done because the technology creates opportunities for new tasks and learning outcomes. Redefinition, ibig sabihin, nabibigyan ang bata ng pagkakataon na maging creative kung paano niya ipapakita ang task or ipapakita ang isang produkto. Halimbawa, say, the learning outcome or the task of the end of the module is for students to present, okay, an advocacy campaign, okay, to the class. Parang ang hirap nun. So ang gagawin ng bata ngayon is instead of face-to-face interaction or live online explanation advocacy, ang gagawin niya, gagawa siya ngayon ng infomercial. So But if from just making a video or just lecturing or talking about or reporting about the advocacy ngayon na gagawin ng bata, gagawa na siya ng infomercial using different technologies together. And that's what we call as red definition. Whichever you choose, substitution, augmentation, modification, and red definition, it must be in consideration of the situation of our students. If we do not consider the situation of our students, we're talking about not all. Do not see it as collective situation of our students. Ngayon, kung collective ang gusto mo, kung lahat ng mga estudyante po ay, halimbawa, sa klase po ninyo o sa school ninyo, 70% po ay may access sa internet. Okay, 70%, 30% wala. Ngayon, ang ginawa nyo po ay lahat po mag-online. E paano yung 30%? Diba? That's unfair. Eh, sir, bala sila. Then that you have condemned them to fail. So, dapat ganun gagawin mo. Be equitable. Yung sinabi ko last time po, equitability. Do not think of equality. Think of equitable delivery of materials. Eh, kung talagang 70% ang may online, 70% will do online, while the 30% continue with your module. Nakuha po natin. And the modification of that definition is called as transformational way of integrating technology to deliver our learning modules. All right. Let's now have a sample mini workshop, how it's done. Okay, so let me check my time. It's already 3:04. So thank you very much. I delivered my topic exactly an hour. And then let's proceed. So I'm making a distance education program. So I will be planning it on two perspectives: distance teaching, ako si teacher, and then distance learning, I have my students. All right. Now, I will be using creation of learning modules for Science 4. Okay, Science 4. And then I am deciding that I will have printed and soft materials. Why? Bakit yung gagawin po yun? Madali lang po. If I have soft materials, I have a module in my laptop, sa laptop ko gagawin, then I can just, for those students who do not have access to digital technology and web-based platforms of distance education learning, then I will just provide them with a hard copy. Sila lang ipiprint. Sila lang bibigyan ko ng print materials. Okay? Now, in distance education, ako na nagsusulat ng modules, I have to think of the scope and sequence, the module pedagogical design, and the instructional plan. So, ibig sabihin, paano ko gagawin po ito? Paano ko gagawa ng module para sa mga estudyante sa Science 4? Ang una kong gagawin pala, gawa muna ako ng curriculum plan. The curriculum plan must have scope and sequence, module pedagogical design, and instructional plan. Let me get out of this let me share you another. Here we go. Kita po ba? All right. Do you see the word file? Okay. So this is a sample of distance education curriculum plan for grade 4 science quarter 1. Stop share ko muna ha. Ulitin ko lang po para sigurado po na napakita. All right. So we are now in the word. So it must have the target learner. Kagaya ng sabing kanina, dapat mayroong explicit explanation of what the module is all about and the target standards and the learning outcomes and the learning standards. So learning target, ito po siya. The learner demonstrate standards. Kinuha ko lang po sa MECs or MECs. The learner should be able to, for this module, dalawa lang po, recognize and practice proper handling of products, evaluate. So itong module na to is good for quarter 1. This scope and sequence or distance education curriculum plan is good for quarter 1, kaya quarter 1 po. So ang learning outcomes po, at the end of the quarter, the students may be able to, either of the two, create an infomercial about how to organize materials based on their properties, usefulness, and harmfulness. There you go. I will just highlight for you guys out there. Or make an advocacy presentation how to handle materials with utmost care due to their usefulness and harmfulness. Bakit po ako merong dalawa? dahil po posible po ang mga bata ay walang access to technology. So dito naman pwede sila magkaroon ng either advocacy presentation, either print or oral. Okay, nonetheless, same pa rin po ang kalalabasan ng outputs, same po ang kalalabasan ng level ng kanilang learning outcomes. So if you will observe my scope and sequence, I have identified how many modules. This is the, yan po, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in quarter 1, I have 4 modules based on the MECS, the mix. And then nakalagay din po sa mix kung ang isang module pang ilang week. Alright? So actually hindi din nakalagay lang week. Ako nag-decide na nun based on the modules of VIBAL. So you have 2 to 3, 2 weeks po for the second module, and we have the 2 weeks for the third module, and then 2 weeks for the third module. Now on this third column, I have here topics. And then again, ako po kasi pag nag-develop po ako ng materials, palagi po ako question format. Okay? So I just to palaki ko po, for those of difficulty seeing small letters, yung classify materials po na learning competency 1 as my first module is subdivided into topics which are in question format. What are the different properties of different materials? How are different materials classified based on their properties? Pagdating po sa activity, itong module po, ang ginamit ko po na pedagogical design. Remember, sabi nga natin, it's scope and sequence, pedagogical design, and we have the instructional plan. So ito po ay pinagsama ko po ng itong scope and sequence and instructional plans. So ito po ang pedagogical. The pedagogical na ginamit ko po science ay inquiry-based approach po ang ginamit ko. So inquiry-based approach ang ginamit ko sa science na design. So ang inquiry-based approach for science instruction has 4 basic elements: experimentation, discussion, cooperative interaction, cooperative interaction, and performance evaluation. So ibig sabihin, ang module ko na to na on classifying materials for 1 week has 4 elements or 4 major activities. So may time allotment po tayo para alam ng bata ilang minuto, kung especially for those who are doing asynchronous approach to delivery of learning the material. So 30 minutes, nakalagay po doon ay mode of delivery, computer-based simulations, teacher supervised, Monday 9 to 9:30. And then ano po materials needed? Science experiment sheets, and PET simulations. So nakalagay po doon ay computer-based simulations. Okay? Ngayon, yan po ay based sa, lahat naman ng estudyante ko mayroong computer-based, mayroong mga computers. Paano kung wala? Then maglalagay ko po dito ng and or modular. Kapon natin. So, maglalagay, meron ka na dito, tamang-tama, science experiment sheets. Or, ilalagay mo dito, dahil may modular ka, ilalagay mo dito, module 1. Nakuha po ba natin? So, kung titingnan mo, hindi muna dapat si teacher nagsusulat ng modules. Ito muna ang gagawin niya. Paplanuhin niya muna paano iaataduhin ang mga learning competencies, anong activity, anong time allotment, anong model gagamitin, mode, anong type of learning, anong schedule, at anong materials, para ito ay naprobahan na. Okay, naprobahan na po itong scope and sequence hanggang last quarter na po to, science experiment PET, nakalagay nga dito what happened to materials are. So computer-based simulations, ang gagawin ng bata dito ay gagawa ng online advocacy campaign. Pag ito po ay nagawa na ng teacher for the whole quarter ng Science 4, aprubahan po niya yan sa kung sino man ang in charge. Kung sa private school po yan, baka po ang inyong grade level coordinator or subject area coordinator. Kung ito po naman po ay nasa public school, usually it's division-based supervised creation of modules. Kung ikaw na-identify na gumawa po nito, or baka nangyari po dito ay 5 kayo na teacher na identify in the division na magsusulat ng grade 4. So teacher 1 will do the module 1, module 2, teacher 3, and so on and so forth. Bago mo na magkanya-kanya magsulat yun, dapat naprobahan mo na ito. Pag inaprobahan na kunwari ng EPS ng science, inaprubahan na lahat ng scope and sequence na to, o kung hindi kung hindi EPS po mag-approve, according to inyo po ay master teacher po sa inyong school, and then pwede na siya magsulat. Mahirap po kasi magsulat na wala kayong plan. What happens is that mahihirapan kayo kasi hindi nyo alam kung what will happen next. Alright? So that's my example for the perspective of distance teaching. Dapat nakagawa ng curriculum plan to deliver the goods. So I deliver the module. So let's go back to my PowerPoint presentation. There we go. So sa curriculum plan, so we're looking at the distance teaching. So it's the learning modules for Science 4. Dapat may curriculum plan po si teacher na nagtuturo ng Science 4 or teachers na tuturo ng Science 4. So gagawa ng scope and sequence, magdi-decide po sila ng module, ng pedagogical design for the module, and then instructional plan. Bago po sila, instructional plan po hindi pa po yung module. Pag itong lahat na to, itong curriculum plan na to, dapat pa-aprobahan muna. Pag naprobahan na po, doon na siya magsusulat ng module. Kasi hindi pwedeng mamaya, pag sinablit ng teacher yung ginawa niyang module or exemplar, sabi niya, mali yung pagkakasunod-sunod. Bakit mo ako pinasulat? Hindi mo pa naprobahan ang tamang pagkakasunod-sunod. Mali yung parts. Bakit mo ako pinasulat na hindi mo sinabi sa akin na ito dapat ang parts? Let us not waste time. So, ito muna dapat ang mangyari. Okay? Kunwari nasulat ng module, aprobado na po yung curriculum plan, ang aking kulot ay lumalabas ang sumpa. Siguro I'm now emotionally involved in my lecture. Ngayon, meron ng module si teacher, soft copy, magdi-decide, or soft copy or hard copy, magdi-decide na ngayon si teacher kung ang delivery ng modules na to ay ibig sabihin ng synchronous, sabay-sabay sila para parehas ang schedule ng mga bata ng pagkuha ng mga modules na to either online or in printed modules. Kahit pa yan online material, module pa rin yan. It's a part of the whole module. Kuha po natin. Kung sa module po ninyo mayroong input, di ba kayo yung parts ng module po, mayroong preliminary activities, may input, may formative assessment, magdi-decide kayo. Yung formative assessment, i-online po natin yan para sabay-sabay nila ginagawa. Doon kayo nagdi-decide to deliver the module that you created. Of the parts of the module, saan doon ang mayroong technology dapat ang i-deliver. But the point is, the decision of what technology to be integrated is based on tama ba, kompleto ang module na ginawa. So either synchronous, asynchronous, or both synchronous or asynchronous. Alright? So, ano mangyayari po nyon? Paano maging effective? Sige, that's the distance education perspective. Nagawa nila teacher, lahat ng all the people involved in the development of the learning modules for Science 4 have contributed greatly, effectively, and efficiently in finishing it on time for quarter 1. Ano naman sa bata? You only took care of the distance teaching perspective and the creation of the module. Dalawa pa lang. There's another one, the distance learning perspective. Ito po dapat meron ng mga bata sa bahay nila. Stop share po ako and then let's go to my sample. Dapat tinulungan po natin ang mga bata na gumawa ng home schedule. I know in the public school, the Department of Education already provided you with a schedule. Ang tawag natin po sa schedule na yon ay synchronous, sabay-sabay ang schedule. Okay po ba? Alright. So this schedule ay dapat kung itong binigay na to na time na yung white po ay binigay ng schedule, hypothetically speaking, ito po ang binigay na schedule ng DepEd or kung private school po, this is the schedule of hours for learning. You need to help the parents at home to integrate in their home schedule things and responsibilities that kids are supposed to be doing outside the learning schedule. Okay, outside. Bakit po? Dapat alam ng bata, ang bahay po ba ay para lang sa pag-aaral o meron pa akong gagawin sa bahay? Let's look at Monday. Sa Monday, nakalagay po doon, 6 to 7:30 personal and household chores. Ibig sabihin, nanay, bahala po kayo kung anong utos ng mga magulang sa mga anak niyo, pero ito po, paliguin niyo doon so forth. 7:30 to 8 po ay preliminary activities po. Ibig sabihin, i-prepare niyo po mga anak niyo, ready na po sila na dapat nandito ang location ng lugar nila ng kanilang pag-aaral. O dapat ihanda na yung mga libro and so forth. 8 to 9:40 po, science po yan. Pag nakita nyo po na yung icon po na computer, ibig sabihin po online po sila ha. Dapat mag-online po sila niyan. Okay? Pag nakita nyo naman po na itong libro na to, ibig sabihin yung module, yung binigay po namin na deliver na module, yan po dapat ang gagawin nila. So, meron pong guide sa mga bahay, ano ang delivery mode sa subject na yun, ano particular day in a week. Pagkatapos, hindi lang yun. Tinulungan niyo po ang ang pamilya to finish the day activity. Dapat, according to research again, during my talk on enhancement and development enhancement of memory skills, you must integrate time for exercise. Dahil sa dami ng ginawa ng bata the whole day, the body must be exercised to boost mental functioning, to boost mental processing. Ang dami yung ginagawa, lang subjects po yung isang araw, then let exercise for an hour. How they're going to do the exercise, bahala sila sa bahay, pero dapat exercise muna yan. Pagdating ng 6 to 7 p.m. personal time, if they want to play online games na pinagbawalan ng presidente, or they would like to play board games or just to sleep, let them do whatever they like because that's their personal time. 7 o'clock to 8 p.m. household chores po, ang dinner po ninyo. O pwede pong palitin, depende sa schedule sa bahay. Unahin muna yung pagkain at household chores and then personal time. Pero dapat po may study time. Bakit po magkaroon ng study time? Remember, especially for struggling students, dapat meron pong additional activity here to help them compensate for their literacy inadequacy. So pwede dito po ay mga corrective measures for students and intervention programs for struggling students, and those are still and also for those students who do not have study habits. For those students who are highly independent, kahit hindi kayo maglagay ng study time, mag-study yan. Ang mga bata na talagang meron ng study habits sa bahay, hindi na kailangan sabihin na mag-aral dahil sila mismo ang gagawa ng paraan para makapag-aral. You call this now as home schedule. What the Department of Education provide us all are the schedule for learning. But schools and teachers must orient the parents out there that this schedule, the academic schedule provided to them for students to follow, must be incorporated in their home schedule. Nakuha po natin. So dapat tong schedule na to, may kopya pa kayo ng mga schedule na ginawa ng mga magulang para kita po natin one way or the other, ito palang ginagawa ng mga estudyante ko na ngayon sa Saturday and so on so forth. Sir, di naman nila nagagawa. You will know because one way or the other, hopefully your students become reflective learners. Doon po sa module may nakalagay po doon na reflection, di ba? So doon yung malalaman kung nagagawa niya o hindi yung schedule na ginawa. Now, let the schedule be there for probably 2 weeks up to 1 month. Now, after 1 month, perhaps, pwede mong tanungin ang mga bata, are you comfortable with the schedule that we provided for you or your parents and I came out for you? Would you like to change the things? Like, gusto niyo muna mag-exercise sa umaga bago mag-household chores and so on and so forth. The point is there's already a schedule that you can help students function as students at home and function as members of the family. Hindi lang yung binigay natin na schedule sa bahay for distance education are just for learning. Sisirain niyo po ang perspektibo ng mga bata sa bahay. Okay? With that, let me share again my PowerPoint. Okay. So ito po yung sample ko po sa science. So with that being said, now I think I'm ready to entertain questions from you guys. Okay, open forum. So do we have questions from the people out there?
Thank you very much, Brother Roderick. Now we will proceed to the question and answer portion. Our first question is from Rona Bayawa. What if until now we are not sure modules from central office will not arrive? So will we resort to self-made modules?
Wow. As per the notice of some of the people, of my close friends, my colleagues in the Department of Education Central Office, in the Bureau of Curriculum Development and Learning Resource Delivery, they said the development of the module is ongoing. So I'm hoping that the modules will be provided to you. Uh, 2 weeks, perhaps 2 weeks. If I think 2 weeks not even enough, but at least 2 weeks, 1 week to 2 weeks before the classes begins, because you still have to think of how you're going to deliver. You need time to think how you will deliver the modules. But at the moment, since the modules are not yet there, I'm highly suggesting that the school make already the school, especially the division level, come up with a decision that let's start with creating our own exemplars, okay, to compensate for the delay of the downloading of the modules from the central office. But that's in the perspective of the public school system, or public schools. In the private schools, private schools, you have no other choice but to do it yourselves. So you have to follow one way or the other. You can modify what I have just shared to you, but that's the basic parts of how you formulate and design your distance education in terms of the use of technology, thinking of that the availability of the technology at home may be limited and may be prolific. You look at in that spectrum. Do not always think of your distance education plan as just prolific, always available at home. Also think it may be limited. So that's my answer to you. For the meantime, as teachers, I think we can ask our school heads what is the decision of the division office, especially that the modules are have not yet been downloaded to you, and the possibility of delay in the planning for the delivery of these modules will definitely be a problem to all teachers. Might as well start making some exemplars for probably for the first 2 weeks or for the first month of the first quarter. I'm sorry, but that's the only answer I can give you at the moment. But rest assured that the Department of Education Central Office, they're doing their best to finish the module on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Brother Ronnie. Sorry, Brother Roderick. For our next question, we have a question from Miss Marisa Lagula. How can learning be convenient if internet connection is intermittent?
Um, it becomes inconvenient because you consider that all your students have Wi-Fi access or access to a cafe, and rent a computer with a good internet connection. That's exactly my point. We cannot generally consider that all our students have access to all of these platforms. We must think first on the limited perspective. Mahina. So dapat ang module po natin to begin with is dapat meron kayong kapasidad na mag-print ng mga modules. But then again, the perspective of printing a material is on the perspective that the modules exist to begin with. How can you print if the modules are not there? Therefore, gawa mo na ng modules. All right, so yun nga po, that's the problem right now. A survey says that even in Manila, they prefer modular instruction, print modular instruction over online. Not because they don't have access to Wi-Fi connection. They do. They have, a nearby cafe or internet shop. But the problem is socioeconomically and financially, they may not be able to sustain such learning environment or such demand from the schools requiring students to learn via online. Combination of both perhaps will be nice. Ang ginagawa po namin sa Sister Mary is that we have at least once a week live online lecture from our teachers, but not every day. Some of our students have videos that they're gonna watch every day, some on a schedule, some have printed materials. But iba naman po ang situation namin sa Sisters of Mary because our students stay inside the school. That's why it's a dorm school. But for those who are not that type of schools, consider first modular. Consider print first, the print technology before digital and web-based technology. Thank you.
Thank you. For our last question from Miss
Yeah.
Jocelyn Prades.
Yes.
What should teachers do if the learner find problems coping with the schedule both synchronous and asynchronous, especially for the learners with difficulty? Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you very much. I love your question because it makes me feel that you really are thinking of the individual situations of your students, not just based on their socioeconomic, individual socioeconomic status, but also their probable differences in terms of their literacy level, their coping mechanisms to the demands of the subject area. Their interest in learning too would be some of those factors that would, you know, make them different from the other students. Thank you very much for that question. Very interesting question. So what I'm suggesting for you is that yun yung sinasabi ko, sa klase ninyo, dapat in-identify nyo na po kung sino talaga ang mga struggling students. Eh sir, hindi po namin kilala mga estudyante namin. Yun yung pong sinasabi natin nga, dapat ang mga teachers po natin ng last year na nag-handle ng mga estudyante na to, meron na po silang portfolio na ipapadala sa mga receiving teachers and the next grade levels. Somehow, binigyan na po ang mga receiving teachers ng ito po yung mga estudyante na nag-struggle during grade 7, kunwari kung moving to sa grade 8, ito yung mga yung performance ng grade 7 namin sa science, bawat subject area. At if-forward po sa mga science teachers, bawat subject area teachers, ang performance ng mga bata para nakapag-prepare po sila. Sino ang tututukan nila? Ito ang bibigyan ko ng magbibigay pa ako sa kanila dito ng additional online lecture sa kanila kasi hindi kaya na print materials lang po. E paano kung hindi available ang materials? Ito kung bibigyan ko po ng audio files para po nakakarinig po sila. Tapos, ito lang pong ibibigay ko na list sa principal na bibigyan po ng assistance ng local government for the purchase of such technology para magkaroon po ng tapos pag meron ng technology, orient ko po ang mga magulang na ganyan. Yan pong ginagawa namin sa Sisters of Mary. It was our practice that our somehow one way or the other, meron po kami mga tests na nagpapakita mga bata. We call it as exit tests. The exit test para makita students the quality of the learning and the level of learning of our students certain quarterly meron din kami at the end of the year para may results po. Ang results po yun ay feedback sa mga receiving teachers of the next grade level para makita niya how to prepare and how to help students na independent na sila, yung mga instructional pa rin at mga struggling students para appropriate po, hindi yung blind technique ang nangyayari sa mga teachers sa pagpaplano sa kanilang the learning plans for their students. So what's happening right now, I think, is that the usual type in the public school system, and probably some of the private schools who are not have not modified their ways of using assessment forms as feedback as to how students are performing the class. Hindi po natutulungan ang mga teachers, the new teachers handling this group of students in planning appropriate type of learning techniques and learning strategy. So yun po, importante. Nakalagay po naman po sa Deped Order Number 8 Series of 2015 and Deped Order Number 21 Series of 2019. Nakalagay po doon, 21 or 51, I forgot the number. Nakalagay po doon na dapat may portfolio assessment po that somehow encapsulates the performance of the students and is duly forwarded to the receiving teacher so that this data becomes the basis for the teacher in planning, especially on who and the groupings of the students and what type of activities would fit this type of or clusters of students. With that, I know that's a good topic, on formative assessment. Sige po, I'll probably come up with another topic on creation of formative and summative assessment basis for feedback of learning of our learners at home. Sige pa, I'll come up with a topic on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Roderick. That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today?
All right, definitely. So these are my conclusions and implications though. So always remember that printed materials remain in distance education. As I've said, it's the core of distance education. Printed materials remain an important component of most distance education courses or any design for that matter. But we need also to consider that some of our students, if not majority of them, may have two-way technology-based communication, which becomes now an essential feature of distance education delivery. All right? Not all students though, but it could be a majority of our students may have access to two-way technology-based communication tools. Now, teachers should be given access to internal and external technical and course design consultants. Ibig sabihin po nun, sana po ang bawat schools or ang division po ay nag-hire, if not hire, enlisting experts or consultants on module development, on edtech, educational technology sa mga higher education institutes para po matulungan po ang ating mga teachers. Kasi nga, ang ating mga teachers are faced with a new way of how learning will take place. So dapat mayroon silang access to these consultants as possible. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but ang IMUS po naman nakaka-access po sa akin, ang IMUS division of IMUS nakaka-access po sa akin. If they have you know, they want some help, I can be there for them. I oblige. We have also the division of Dasmariñas, and even Cagayan de Oro, nakakapunta po ako. So you'll never know. But with this kind of, we can do webinars. You don't have to invite me personally, but you can also invite other experts out there. All right. Next would be, I would like to remind you that this is the process flow of modular distance learning by Department of Education. This is the design. We need to, of course, one, the teachers will prepare learning materials and modules. Nakalagay na po ha. Teachers will prepare learning materials, modules, activity sheets for modular distance learning while at work from home. Then learning in a box contains materials for modular distance learning guide and parents. So nakalagay po, nakabox na po yun. I-deliver sa mga bahay po. Now, the delivery can be picked up at school or can be home delivery with the help of barangay officials or a pick up at barangay community center. The point is, the school need to enlist the support and involvement of the local government to facilitate the delivery and the ease of distance learning education or distance education of the Philippine educational system during the time of pandemic. And definitely, we now have parents with instructional materials. Therefore, the parents need orientation how these materials can help their kids, their children, maximize learning at home, okay? At home, and how it will be sustained. Next would be, I would like to end my session with this statement, because probably I know that most of you have this problem at the back of your minds, but we need to consider, because this is distance education will always have costs. Whichever design you choose, it will cost something. So it is imperative to have an accurate understanding of the current cost of a distance education program to project future costs. So ngayon pa lang dapat makita nyo, ngayong mga teacher ngayon na nagta-try out, magkano nang ginagastos nyo? Sabi ng mga teacher, wala naman eh. Wait, ginamit yung kuryente nyo. Sino magbabayad nun? Oh, may wifi ka. Sino magbabayad nun? O nag-print ka ng materials, sino magbabayad nun? Sa public school po ay pwede po naming free na lang po yun. O hindi pa dapat free, dapat pag-isipan po natin, pwede po maging credit, service credit. Convert that into service credit. Kawawa naman po, hirap na nga ang teacher gumawa sa planning. Ang 6 hours at saka 2 hours na planning na contact, tapos 2 hours planning, hindi na yan true ngayon. In the matter of distance education, there will be more time devoted for planning. Mas matagal. Minsan nga, ang pag-deliver ng 2-hour module or activity in the module or online module, it will take the teacher most of the day to finish it. Wala na siyang nagawa. All right? So we need to look at the cost. We need to be equitable to the efforts and the finances that teachers may shell out during the process of fulfilling their duties in delivering this learning experience to our students while they are working at home and while our students are learning at home. I hope one way or the other I have shed some answers to your questions, but I know at the end of the day, your principals, your school heads, and the division office officials will be the ones to make decisions for you. And all you teachers, public school teachers, will have to follow whatever directives you receive from them. But for the private school teachers, you have all the liberty to make distance education most effective for your students without the discrepancy of the directives of the division office. With that being said, I will have another continuing topic on this. That will be next week on Friday. So Friday next week will still be on this topic, but it will be more specific now. But for now, I would say thank you very much for listening to me. Again, these are all my experiences that I have been doing in the past few years and decades. And I would say that these things done well, I don't, I make sure that we follow the protocols and the guidelines, and the results was really tremendously, really good. So it was effective and efficient, not just for the teachers and for the students. I hope you get snippets of learnings from my sharing to you. Thank you very much and good afternoon to all of you.
There we have it. In behalf of VIBAL Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, brother. And to all our ka-VIBAL viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.